Let's head out to Knoxville, Tennessee. We visited the folks in Knoxville a few times on this show, both metaphorically and literally. But they had a spring scrimmage the other night, and a couple of notes to break down there. Let's start with this one. This was probably the number one note you were hoping you would get if you were a Tennessee fan. It's glorious. We got explosives, all right? I'm not talking about the literal sense. I'm not talking about dynamite. I'm talking about shots downfield, being connected, explosive plays. This is how you set the entire offense off, man. This is how you elevate back to where you were in 2022, both from a schematic sense and from a, statistical sense. Like, Nico averaged 7.8 yards a pass last year. Not bad. It's pretty good for a lot of circles, kind of middle of the pack when you look at the rest of college football. Hendon Hooker averaged 9.5 yards a pass in 2022. Very, very massive difference. So to be able to stretch the ball downfield, that's where this gets a little bit out of hand for the rest of the SEC, because they're going to scheme it up to where you got one-on-one matchups. You're going to run the football. We'll talk more about that as we get further on throughout this show and throughout this segment. But I love this note for two reasons. One, it means that Nico Iamaleava must have been dialed downfield. Something we were asking for, begging for. I mean, we were holding a session every single, it felt like, week during the season saying, Nico, if we can just get a couple of shots to drop deep, brother, that's going to change the entire complexion of Tennessee football. Change the entire complexion, quite frankly, of what the college football landscape could look like if Tennessee is once again explosive. So, Vol Navy, here we go now. All right, Nico is, from what it sounds like here during spring practice, starting to calibrate the cannon, and we're going to be in good shape. The second note from this, though, when it comes to them having some explosives downfield, I mean, obviously Nico is a big part of this, and the quarterback's a big part of this, but that also means if you're going to have some explosive plays downfield, you got to have somebody getting open. Got to have receivers separating. True freshman, early enrollee, Travis Smith, had a big night. Had a big night when it came to the scrimmage. I was told he caught a long touchdown. On 3 now. The only service to have my guy as a top 10 receiver in his class, worth noting. Dude's going to be a ball player, all right? Now, is he going to start? Game 1 remains to be seen, but he's going to play for them in 2025. He's going to have a role. So to have a guy who's been on campus all of like 15 minutes still figuring out where he wants to eat in Knoxville, catching touchdown passes, that's a good sign, all right? So we got some good vibes out there out of Knoxville, in addition to what you've heard about Chris Brazzell and what he's been so far this spring. Note 2. Kind of goes hand in hand with note 1 there. Nico Iamaleava was in complete control. So it's one thing to have the downfield game sort of in the right spot, but to be able to have the entire offensive command, that's huge. That's also something we were asking for in 2024 from Nico. Something we were saying, man, he's talented, he's got all the physical tools, but it just doesn't totally look like he's all the way comfortable out there just yet. And I get it's a scrimmage. I get it's not actually a game happening in the fall, but y'all, you'll take this. You'll take this. The note, in addition to this, was that Nico Iamaleava, him having control, means that everybody else, as an offense, operationally, they were in a really good spot. Because that first spring scrimmage, those of y'all that follow this thing closely, a lot of times the first spring scrimmage is kind of clunky for the offense. You got miscues, you got drop passes, you got formational challenges, guys lining up in the wrong spot. Sounds like number 8 was getting the show completely dialed in. If your quarterback has control of the offense, you can make up for some personnel holes. Now, you don't want to have personnel holes. That's just the name of the game. But if you can have a quarterback who knows where to go with the football, you get everyone else lined up, and can just play the game at a different speed than everyone else out there, that's going to allow your linemen to not have to block as long. It allows receivers to have a better sense as to when they're going to be seeing the football. It gives your running back better pictures to run through, all those things. So, again, it's a scrimmage. But beggars can't be choosers. We've been begging for it, and we love to see this out of Nico Iamaleava. Very, very good vibes. Now, Deshaun Bishop is a name that we've talked about on this show before. When it comes to the spring for Tennessee, was told that he stood out. Now, what do we say? If you hear some frequency around somebody, if you hear the same name multiple times, that's a real thing. One time you hear a name, okay, great, awesome, they had a good practice, whatever. But Deshaun Bishop, we've been told, had a great spring to start, had a great scrimmage last night. You lose a dog now in Dylan Sampson, man. It's a lot of production you got to make up for. It's also worth noting Josh Heupel's offense. We think about splash plays. We talk about the desire to have that 9.5 yards a pass number that Hendon Hooker had in 2022. It is built on running the football. If you can't run the football in Josh Heupel's offense, forget about it. It's not going to happen. But Deshaun Bishop, I would imagine, will be able to pick up where those other backs have left off of note under Josh Heupel in his time in Knoxville, and I think he's going to be the next guy. I love his story, too. A guy that I believe he was a walk-on, has kind of been questioned at every turn, just continues to show up, produce, and is trending towards having a tremendous fall when it's time to actually play games in the fall. Now, the defense had some injuries, all right? At all three levels, you were missing some pieces. A couple of ways to look at this. One way to look at this is you say the offense had a great night. They must have had a great night because the defense wasn't playing with a full deck of cards. There's some validity to that. However, I think during the spring, if you're able to get some more young bucks some burn and create some depth for you, there's no way to spin that as a bad thing. Like, of course, you'd like to have your defense ball out during the spring scrimmage. Of course, it's always a good thing. But in modern college football, especially in the SEC, going to have to play a lot of games, going to have to withstand a pretty intense workload. The more bodies that you can have ready to play is going to serve you well when it gets to November, December, and hopefully for Tennessee, you're thinking January. So to close this whole thing out on the Tennessee scrimmage intel, man, this is, I think, exactly the kind of intel you would want to hear out of that scrimmage. Nico's in control, explosive plays, receivers stepping up, new receivers, and Travis Smith stepping up. Run game looks good. All things are trending in the positive direction. Good vibes out of Knoxville. Good vibes out of that first scrimmage. I'm very encouraged about what I heard from my one Nico Iamaleava.